Commander Jake Morrison pressed his face against the cold metal window of the Earth Defense Station. The stars looked the same as they always did, but today felt different. Today, the galaxy would decide if humans deserved to live free or die as slaves. The holographic display in the center of the room showed the Galactic Senate chamber on Nexus Prime. 300 different alien species sat in floating pods arranged in perfect circles. At the center stood Ambassador Lisa Carter, the only human allowed to speak for Earth. Jake had known Lisa for 10 years. She was smart, brave, and never backed down from a fight. But today she looked small, standing there alone. The aliens around. Her were twice her size, with scales and claws and eyes that glowed in the dark. They did not look friendly. Captain Ryan Bell stood next to Jake, watching the same display. Ryan commanded the battleship Resolute, the most powerful ship in Earth's fleet. His jaw was tight as he watched the alien senators whisper among themselves. "This should be easy," Ryan said. "We helped them win the Void Wars. We saved their planets, they owe us." Jake nodded, but felt worry growing in his stomach. Something was wrong. The aliens were not acting like allies. They were acting like predators who had cornered their prey. Admiral Patricia Hayes sat at the command console behind them. She controlled all of Earth's defenses from the moon to the outer planets. Her fingers danced across the controls as she monitored ship movements throughout the solar system. "Jake," she said without looking up, "we have a problem. Long-range sensors are picking up massive fleet movements. At least 12 different species are moving ships toward our territory." Jake felt his blood turn to ice. How many ships? Thousands, maybe more. They are staying just outside our detection range, but they are there. On the display, Senator Zix Ithera of the Hegemony Coalition stood up. She was 8 feet tall with purple skin and silver eyes that seemed to cut through steel. When she spoke, her voice carried the authority of someone used to being obeyed. "The matter before us today," she began, "is the continued membership of the species known as humans in our galactic community." Ambassador Carter stepped forward. "Senator, as agreed, this is a simple renewal of our protective treaty. Earth has honored all obligations and contributed significantly to galactic security." Zixthera smiled, showing teeth like broken glass. "Yes, you have contributed. That is exactly the problem." Jake felt his heart skip a beat. This was not going according to plan. "In 50 years, Zixithera continued, humans have advanced from primitive nuclear weapons to quantum manipulation technology. You have gone from chemical rockets to faster-than-light travel. This rate of advancement is unprecedented and dangerous." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Jake could see fear in the aliens' glowing eyes. They were not here to renew Earth's treaty. They were here to end it. Dr. Kevin Walsh burst into the command center. He ran the Xenobiology Research Department and spent his days studying alien communications. His face was white with terror. "Admiral," he gasped, trying to catch his breath. "I have been monitoring their private channels. This is not about treaty. Renewal. They plan to vote for immediate expulsion and resource appropriation." "What does that mean?" Jake asked, though he already knew the answer would be bad. "It means they vote to kick us out of the galactic community and then take our planets, our technology, and our people. It means slavery or extinction." On the display, Ambassador Carter was trying to defend humanity. "Our rapid advancement has been shared freely with our allies. We have never used our technology aggressively except in mutual defense." A senator from the Zephyrian Empire stood up. His species looked like giant insects with golden armor. "That is exactly what makes you dangerous. Your species thinks differently than ours. You adapt too quickly. You learn too fast. You are unpredictable." Another senator joined in. "During the Void Wars, we watched human soldiers sacrifice themselves to save alien civilians. No rational species does this. It suggests mental instability on a genetic level." Jake clenched his fists. They were calling humanity's greatest strength a weakness. The aliens could not understand courage or loyalty because they had never possessed either quality. Captain Steve Rogers' voice crackled over the communication system. He commanded the destroyer Phoenix and was patrolling the outer system. "Command, I have contacts on long-range sensors. Multiple fleets are jumping into the system. They are not responding to identification requests. Admiral Hayes began typing commands rapidly. All stations, this is Defense Command. Raise alert status to red. All personnel to battle stations, this is not a drill. On the display, the vote was beginning. One by one, the alien senators cast their decisions. The Altarians voted to support Earth, as Jake had expected. They were peaceful traders who valued human friendship. The Kepler colonists also voted for humanity. They were refugees that Earth had helped resettle. But every other species voted against them. The Zephyrian Empire, the Hegemony Coalition, the Crystal Syndicate, the Bio Collective. Name after name, vote after vote, all against Earth. The final tally appeared on the screen. 847 votes against Earth, 3 votes in favor. Senator Zixathara smiled coldly at Ambassador Carter. By the authority of the Galactic Senate, Earth's membership is terminated. Your species is declared a threat to galactic security. All human colonies and territories are to be occupied and your population relocated for the safety of civilized worlds. Ambassador Carter stood straight and proud despite the death sentence that had just been passed. You are making a mistake. Humans do not surrender easily. We do not forgive betrayal. Your threats are empty, Zixathara replied. Your entire fleet could not defeat even one of our member species. You are outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Lisa Carter smiled, and for the first time that day, Jake felt hope instead of fear. Senator, Carter said calmly, you clearly do not understand humans very well. We have never been afraid of bad odds. In fact, we prefer them. The transmission ended, leaving the command center in silence. Jake looked around at his fellow officers. They were scared, but they were also angry. The galaxy had betrayed them. Now the galaxy would learn what humans did to traitors. Admiral, Jake said, request permission to begin combat operations. Patricia Hayes stood up and looked out at the approaching alien fleets. Permission granted. Show them what happens when you back a human into a corner. The war for humanity's survival was about to begin. The first alien ships appeared at the edge of the solar system 3 hours after the vote. Captain Ryan Bell watched from the bridge of the Resolute as hundreds of enemy vessels dropped out of hyperspace near Pluto. They moved in perfect formation, like metal sharks swimming through the darkness. Captain, his weapons officer called out. Long-range scans show Zephyrian dreadnoughts, hegemony battlecruisers, and at least 6 other species. Total count is over 400 ships in the first wave. Ryan felt sweat on his forehead, but kept his voice steady. Signal the fleet. All ships prepare for combat. Target the lead vessels and wait for my command. On Mars, the mining colonies were already under attack. Colonel Amy Johnson crouched behind a concrete barrier as purple energy beams cut through the air above her head. The Zephyrian ground forces had landed 20 minutes ago and were pushing toward the main settlement. Fall back to the secondary perimeter, she shouted into her radio. Use the mining equipment as cover. Make them pay for every meter. Her soldiers were miners and engineers, not career military. But they knew how to fight dirty, and they knew the terrain better than any alien invader. They rigged explosive charges in the tunnels and turned construction vehicles into makeshift tanks. The Zephyrians had expected an easy victory. Instead, they found humans who refused to run and who turned every building into a fortress. When the aliens finally took the main settlement, they found it empty except for booby traps and recorded messages telling them where they could stick their invasion. Captain Steve Rogers was fighting a running battle through the asteroid belt. His destroyer Phoenix darted between the floating rocks, using them as cover, while alien ships tried to surround him. His crew had been fighting for 6 straight hours without rest. Sir, his navigation officer reported, we have 3 enemy cruisers closing from port side and 2 more coming up from below. They are trying to pin us against the large asteroid cluster. Steve smiled grimly. The aliens thought like military textbooks. They followed rules and formations and expected their enemies to do the same. But humans had learned different lessons from their wars. Take us straight into the cluster, he ordered. Full speed. Sir, the asteroids will tear us apart. Only if we hit them. The aliens are bigger than we are. Let them worry about the rocks. The Phoenix plunged into the asteroid field with enemy ships in pursuit. Steve's pilot, trained on the EU, chaotic flight patterns developed during Earth's air wars, twisted and spun between rocks that would crush their ship. Behind them, two alien cruisers collided with asteroids and exploded in brilliant flashes of light. On Europa Station, humanity's largest research facility, engineer Tom Bradley was working frantically to complete the defensive systems. The station held Earth's most advanced scientific projects, including experimental weapons that could change the course of the war. Tom, his assistant called out, "Enemy ships are approaching the station. 3 battle groups, mixed species. They will be in weapons range in 15 minutes. Tom wiped grease from his hands and looked at the half-finished defense grid. The gravitational pulse cannons were installed but not calibrated. The shield generators were running at 60% power. It would have to be enough. Activate everything. We have, he said. Even the experimental stuff. If we are going to die, let's take some of them with us. The alien fleet approached Europa expecting to find a helpless research station. Instead, they ran into weapons technology that bent space and time itself. The lead ship simply vanished as a gravitational pulse collapsed it into a point smaller than an atom. The second ship found its hull aging 1,000 years in 10 seconds as temporal distortion fields tore it apart. Tom watched from the control room as his experimental weapons carved through the enemy formation. But there were too many ships and not enough power. The aliens adapted quickly, staying at longer range and overwhelming the defenses with concentrated fire. General Mike Davis coordinated Earth's planetary defense from deep underground bunkers. Every major city was protected by shield generators and orbital defense platforms. The aliens had expected to find a primitive world with simple defenses. Instead, they found a fortress. "Sir," his aide reported, "the enemy fleets are beginning. Orbital bombardment of major population centers. Energy shields are holding, but power levels are dropping." Mike studied the tactical displays. The aliens were using standard siege tactics, trying to wear down Earth's defenses through sustained bombardment. But humans had survived global wars against their own species. They knew how to endure punishment that would break other civilizations. "Activate the kinetic platforms," he ordered. "Target their command ships first. Make them regret coming here." High above Earth's atmosphere, massive railguns began firing tungsten rods at significant fractions of light speed. The aliens had shields that could stop energy weapons, but they could not stop solid matter moving at relativistic velocities. 3 enemy dreadnoughts died in the first salvo, their hulls punctured by projectiles that hit with the force of atomic bombs. Dr. Helen Price worked in her laboratory beneath the Rocky Mountains while the battle raged overhead. Project Prometheus was humanity's most ambitious weapon development program, and she was running out of time to complete it. The alien main fleet would arrive within 96 hours. "Doctor," her research assistant said, "the quantum resonance chamber is showing instabilities. If we push the power levels any higher, we risk a cascade failure." Helen looked at the readings and made a decision that would haunt her dreams for years to come. Push it anyway. If this weapon fails, there won't be anyone left to worry about. Cascade failures. The device she was building would change the nature of warfare itself. It did not destroy enemy ships directly. Instead, it turned their own technology against them, hijacking control systems and forcing alien crews to attack their own allies. But the power requirements were enormous, and one mistake would vaporize half of North America. Back in space, Captain Ryan Bell received distress signals from colonies throughout the outer system. Titan had gone silent. The moons of Jupiter were under heavy attack. Humanity's first line of defense was crumbling under the alien assault. "Sir," his communication officer reported, "we are receiving surrender demands from the alien fleet commander. They are offering to spare civilian populations if we stand down immediately." Ryan laughed bitterly. "Tell them that humans don't surrender. Tell them they picked the wrong species to betray." The Resolute charged toward the alien fleet with every weapon firing. Around him, the scattered ships of Earth's Navy followed suit. They were outnumbered 10 to 1, but they were fighting for their homes, their families, and their right to exist. The aliens had made a critical error in judgment. They thought humans would fight like civilized species, following rules of engagement, and accepting defeat when outnumbered. But humans had learned warfare in the crucible of their own violent history. They knew that sometimes civilization was a luxury that had to be set aside. The real war was just beginning. The aliens had made their first mistake when they assumed humans would fight fair. Lieutenant Colonel Frank Miller proved them wrong on Titan when his mining unit was surrounded by 3 full regiments of hegemony shock troops. The alien commander sent a surrender demand through the communication system. Human forces, you are outnumbered 50-1. Lay down your weapons and you will be treated according to galactic law. Frank looked around at his 37 soldiers. They were tired, hungry, and low on ammunition. The smart thing would be to surrender. The civilized thing would be to accept defeat gracefully. Frank was not feeling civilized. "Boys," he said into his radio, "remember what they voted to do to our families back home. Remember that they planned this betrayal while shaking our hands and calling us allies." He walked over to the fusion reactor that powered the mining operation. The safety protocols were clear. Overloading the reactor would create an explosion visible from orbit. It would also kill everyone within 50 kilometers. "Frank," his sergeant called out, "what are you doing?" "Showing them what happens when you corner a human," Frank replied, entering the shutdown codes in reverse sequence. The reactor began to glow brighter. Warning alarms screamed through the facility. Frank's men understood immediately and began evacuating the alien prisoners they had captured. Even in war, some things mattered more than victory. The explosion turned night into day across half of Titan. When the light faded, there was a crater where the mining station had been. 3,000 hegemony soldiers had died in the blast, along with Frank and his brave volunteers. The aliens called it barbaric. Humans called it Tuesday. Captain Nicole White commanded the stealth ship Wraith, built using technology captured during the Void Wars. Her ship was invisible to most sensors and could strike without warning. She used these advantages to begin a campaign of terror against alien supply lines. The aliens moved their supplies in large convoys protected by warships. They followed predictable routes and maintained formation discipline. Nicole found their predictability boring. She would appear behind a supply ship, destroy it with a single torpedo, and vanish before the escorts could react. Sometimes she would disable ships instead of destroying them, leaving the crews stranded in space to send distress calls that would draw away other vessels. The Zephyrian Empire lost 12 supply convoys in 3 days. Their fleet commander sent increasingly desperate messages to his government, claiming that humans were using dishonorable tactics and fighting like cowards. Nicole smiled when she intercepted those messages. The aliens were learning that humans had very different ideas about honor and courage. Admiral Charles Brown had been on Mars when the invasion began. Everyone thought he died when the planet fell, but Charles had other plans. He escaped through underground mining tunnels with 200 survivors and a collection of hastily converted civilian ships. His ghost fleet consisted of mining vessels, cargo haulers, and passenger transports armed with whatever weapons they could find. They looked like junk, but they moved like sharks through the outer system. Charles used guerrilla tactics learned from Earth's bloodiest conflicts. He would hit isolated enemy ships, capture their supplies, and disappear before reinforcements arrived. His fleet grew stronger with each victory while the aliens grew more paranoid. "Sir," his communication officer reported, "we are receiving distress calls from a hegemony patrol group. They are under attack by unknown vessels." Charles smiled coldly. "Unknown vessels. That would be the Morrison battle group. Let them handle it. We have bigger fish to catch." He had learned that a major alien supply depot was hidden in the asteroid belt. The facility was lightly defended because the aliens assumed it was too well hidden to find. They had forgotten that humans were very good at finding things that did not want to be found. Engineer Susan Clark had been working on a secret project in the asteroid belt when the war began. She had a team of 50 engineers and access to industrial mining equipment. More importantly, she had an idea that would change everything. She selected an asteroid 3 kilometers wide and began hollowing it out. Inside, she installed the most powerful weapon system humans had ever built. Shield generators, plasma cannons, missile launchers, and a cloaking device that made the entire asteroid invisible. When the alien fleet detected massive energy readings from her location, they sent a full battle group to investigate. 12 heavy cruisers and 4 dreadnoughts approached the coordinates, expecting to find a human research station. They found empty space. Susan watched from inside her hidden fortress as the alien ships searched for the source of the energy readings. They passed within 500 meters of her position without detecting anything. "Activate weapons," she ordered quietly. The asteroid suddenly appeared on every sensor screen in the system. Before the aliens could react, it began firing. Plasma, beams and missile salvos erupted from concealed weapon ports carved into the rock surface. The alien battle group died in minutes. Their ships were designed to fight other starships, not mobile fortresses that could appear and disappear at will. Dr. Kevin Walsh had been busy breaking every alien communication code in the galaxy. His team of programmers and mathematicians worked around the clock to crack enemy encryption systems. What they found made the war personal. The aliens had been planning to betray Earth for over a year. They had studied human military tactics, identified key leaders, and prepared detailed plans for the invasion. Worse, they had been lying about their casualties during the Void Wars to make humans feel guilty about their own survival. "Admiral," Kevin reported to Patricia Hayes, "they never intended to honor the treaty. This was always meant to be a war of extermination." Patricia nodded grimly. "Then we will give them exactly what they planned to give us." She began transmitting new orders to every human ship in the system. The time for defensive fighting was over. It was time to show the aliens what humans did to enemies who planned genocide. Captain Ryan Bell received the new orders aboard the Resolute. His ship had been damaged in the earlier fighting, but it was still functional. More importantly, the crew was angry. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "we are receiving similar orders from all command centers. Operation Payback is authorized." Ryan studied the tactical displays. The alien fleets were spread throughout the system, confident in their numerical superiority. They had divided their forces to attack multiple targets simultaneously. It was exactly what the humans had hoped they would do. "Signal the fleet," Ryan ordered. "All ships begin hunter-killer operations. Target of opportunity protocols are now in effect. No prisoners, no mercy, no quarter." The aliens had wanted to see what humans were truly capable of when pushed to the edge. They were about to find out. The hunted were about to become the hunters. Dr. Helen Price stood in the underground laboratory as Project Prometheus came online for the first time. The massive device hummed with power that could crack planets in half. Around her, technicians monitored readings that showed energy levels beyond anything previously achieved by human science. "Doctor," her assistant called out nervously, "the quantum field generators are showing stress fractures. We are pushing them far beyond safe parameters." Helen looked at the tactical display showing the main alien fleet entering the solar system. Over 2,000 ships from dozens of species, all coming to finish what the Senate vote had started. In 6 hours they would be in weapons range of Earth. "Keep pushing," she ordered. "If this fails, safe parameters won't matter to anyone." The weapon she had built was not designed to destroy ships directly. Instead, it reached into the quantum foundations of matter itself and turned alien technology against its users. Neural interface systems that connected alien crews to their ships would become prisons. Weapons would target their own allies. The most advanced fleets in the galaxy would tear themselves apart. But the power requirements were staggering, and one miscalculation would create a black hole in the heart of North America. Captain Bill Taylor led his fighter squadron through the outer system, hunting for alien scout ships. His pilots flew experimental craft that pushed human engineering to its limits. They were faster and more maneuverable than anything the aliens had, but they were also more fragile. "Red Leader," his wingman reported. "Sensors show multiple contacts. Ahead. Looks like a hegemony patrol group. 6 heavy fighters and 2 gunships." Bill smiled inside his helmet. The aliens still flew in neat formations, following tactics written in their military academies. Human pilots had learned different lessons from the savage air wars of their own planet. "Break formation," he ordered. "Use the Newman maneuver. Hit them from 6 different angles and make them panic." The human fighters scattered like leaves in a storm. each pilot choosing his own attack vector. The aliens tried to maintain formation, discipline, but they could not track targets that refused to follow predictable patterns. Bill's first missile took out the lead gunship. His wingman destroyed 2 fighters with a single pass. Within minutes, the entire alien patrol was debris floating in space. "Command," Bill reported. "Red Squadron has eliminated the outer picket. No survivors." The aliens were learning that human pilots did not just fly their ships. They became one with their machines, pushing both flesh and metal beyond normal limits. It was a level of integration that alien minds could not comprehend. On the bridge of the Resolute, Captain Ryan Bell watched as alien fleets converged on Earth. The main force was led by Senator Zixthera herself, aboard the massive hegemony flagship Dominion. She had come to personally witness humanity's final defeat. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "long-range sensors show the enemy fleet is maintaining standard approach formation. They are not taking evasive action or deploying screening forces." Ryan nodded grimly. The aliens were confident in their overwhelming numbers. They saw no need for caution against a species they had already condemned to extinction. "Signal all ships," Ryan ordered. "Operation Turning Point is now active. All units, prepare for coordinated strike." Hidden throughout the solar system, human ships began moving toward predetermined positions. The aliens had expected to find a broken defense fleet scattered by weeks of fighting. Instead, they found a carefully prepared trap. Commander Jake Morrison coordinated the defense from Earth's command center. Every remaining human ship was now under his direct control, linked by quantum communication systems that the aliens could not intercept or jam. "All stations report ready," his communication officer announced. "Fleet elements are in position. Project Prometheus is online and targeting the main enemy formation." Jake looked at the display showing enemy ships entering the kill zone. They moved in perfect formation, following standard military doctrine. They had no idea that their own technology was about to be turned against them. "Activate Prometheus," he ordered quietly. The effect was immediate and devastating. Across the alien fleet, neural interface systems began broadcasting commands that turned crew members into puppets. Weapon systems targeted their own allies. Navigation computers sent ships on collision courses with each other. The hegemony flagship Dominion found its own guns turning on nearby vessels. Senator Zixthera screamed orders from the bridge, but her crew could not respond. Their minds were no longer their own. "What is happening?" she demanded as her ship's weapons destroyed a friendly cruiser. Her tactical officer tried to speak but could only watch in horror as his hands moved without his control, targeting another ally for destruction. Admiral Patricia Hayes watched from the Lunar Command Center as the alien fleet tore itself apart. Ships that had been allies for centuries turned their weapons on each other. The perfectly ordered formation became a chaotic battlefield where no one could tell friend from enemy. "My God," she whispered. "Helen actually did it." But the quantum weapon was taking its toll on the human systems as well. Power grids across Earth were overloading. The device was consuming energy faster than it could be supplied. Dr. Helen Price saw the readings and made a decision that would haunt her for the rest of her life. She began rerouting power from civilian systems, plunging entire cities into darkness to keep the weapon functioning. "Doctor," her assistant protested, "we are pulling power from hospitals, schools, life support systems. The alternative is extinction," Helen replied coldly. "Make the choice." Captain Steve Rogers brought the Phoenix out of the asteroid belt, leading a squadron of damaged but determined ships. The alien fleet was in chaos, but there were still hundreds of vessels that had not been affected by the quantum weapon. "All ships," he broadcast. "Enemy formations are broken. Move to attack positions and target ships showing organized resistance." The human fleet struck like wolves attacking a scattered herd. Ships that had been hiding and running for weeks, suddenly, became predators, hunting down alien vessels that tried to regroup. The battle turned into a massacre. Alien ships, cut off from their command structure and unable to coordinate, fell easy prey to human forces that had learned to fight as individuals rather than formations. Senator Zixthera found herself trapped on a ship that no longer obeyed. Her commands. Around her, the greatest fleet in galactic history was destroying itself. The humans had not just defeated them. They had turned their own strength against them. Impossible, she gasped as another friendly ship exploded under fire from her own weapons. This is not how war is supposed to work. But humans had never fought war the way it was supposed to work. They fought to win no matter the cost. They adapted, improvised, and overcame obstacles that would stop other species cold. The tide of war had turned. The hunters had become the hunted, and the galaxy was about to learn why humans were the most dangerous species ever to reach for the stars. Captain Ryan Bell stood on the bridge of the Resolute as the last alien ship in the solar system exploded. The great invasion fleet that was supposed to conquer humanity now floated as debris around Earth. But Ryan was not celebrating. He was planning. "Signal all ships," he ordered. "Prepare for immediate hyperspace jump. We are going to pay our friends a visit." His crew looked at him with surprise. The defensive battle was over. Earth was safe. Most species would have stopped there, content to have survived the assault. Humans were not most species. Commander Jake Morrison spoke from the communication screen. "Ryan, the Senate species are already sending surrender signals. 3 different governments have offered to negotiate." Ryan smiled coldly. "Tell them we will negotiate after we visit their homeworlds. Tell them we want to discuss the vote in person." The human fleet that emerged from hyperspace above the Zephyrian homeworld was not the same force that had defended Earth. These ships carried the anger of a betrayed species and the cold determination of survivors who had nothing left to lose. Captain Bill Taylor's fighter squadron led the assault on the orbital defense platforms. The Zephyrian defenders expected a civilized attack with warnings and demands for surrender. Instead, they found human pilots who struck without mercy or hesitation. "This is for Mars," Bill whispered, as his missiles destroyed a space station filled with military personnel. The Zephyrians had voted to exterminate humanity. Now they were learning what extermination looked like. Admiral Charles Brown brought his ghost fleet out of hyperspace near the hegemony capital world. His collection of converted civilian ships looked harmless compared to the massive defense fleets protecting the planet. The hegemony commanders barely bothered to respond to his arrival. That was their last mistake. Charles had spent weeks studying captured alien technology. His ships might look like cargo haulers and mining vessels, but they carried weapons that turned matter into energy and energy into death. "All ships," he broadcast, "remember what they planned to do to our children. Show them the same mercy they voted to show us." The orbital battle stations around the hegemony capital died in silence. Charles did not bother with surrender demands or warnings. The time for mercy had ended with the Senate vote. Dr. Kevin Walsh sat in his communications center, monitoring alien broadcasts from across the galaxy. The news was spreading fast. Humanity was not just defending itself, it was attacking. "Kevin," Admiral Patricia Hayes called from her station. "What are you seeing out there?" Kevin looked at the flood of desperate messages crossing alien networks. "Panic," he said simply. "Complete panic. They never imagined we would take the fight to them." Species after species was discovering that humans remembered who had voted against them. The careful records kept by Dr. Walsh ensured that no betrayer would be forgotten. Captain Nicole White materialized her stealth ship above the Crystal Syndicate homeworld. The Syndicate had voted early and enthusiastically for humanity's destruction. They had even offered to provide ships for the invasion fleet. Nicole had a gift for them. Her ship carried a single weapon, designed specifically for this moment. The quantum virus would spread through their crystal-based technology like fire through dry grass. Every computer, every communication system, every piece of advanced technology on their world would turn to useless sand. "For every human child you plan to murder," she said as she fired. The Crystal Syndicate civilization ended in a day. Their cities went dark. Their ships fell from the sky. Their proud crystal spires crumbled into dust. They had voted for genocide and received it in return. Senator Zixathara found herself standing in what had once been the Galactic Senate chamber. The great building was empty now, its windows shattered by human kinetic weapons. She was the last, senator still alive, kept breathing only so she could witness what her vote had created. Commander Jake Morrison walked into the ruined chamber wearing the uniform of Earth's military. He looked exactly like the human she had dismissed as primitive and weak, but his eyes held the cold fire of a species that had been pushed too far. "Senator," he said politely, "I believe you called for a vote on humanity's membership in the Galactic community." Sixthera tried to speak but found her voice frozen by terror. Around her, the empty seats where hundreds of senators had once sat bore silent witness to the consequences of betrayal. "The vote was 847 to 3, Jake continued. "You decided we were too dangerous to live free. You voted to take our worlds, enslave our people, and end our species." He walked to the center of the chamber where the voting display still showed the final tally. With one hand, he erased the numbers and entered new ones. "This is Earth's vote on your species," he said calmly. "We vote for justice. We vote for consequences. We vote to teach the galaxy what happens when you betray your allies." The display showed the results of humanity's response. The Zephyrian Empire extinct. The Hegemony Coalition extinct. The Crystal Syndicate extinct. Species after species marked with the same word. Only 3 entries showed different results. The Altarians, who had voted for humanity, were marked as protected allies. The Kepler colonists received the same status. Even the warrior Krextai, who had surprised everyone with their support, found themselves under human protection. "You were right about one thing," Jake told the trembling senator. "Humans are dangerous, but you made one critical error in judgment." He turned to leave, then paused at the chamber door. "You should have made us your friends instead of your enemies." Dr. Helen Price stood in her laboratory beneath the Rocky Mountains, watching the reports come in from across the galaxy. Her quantum weapon had not just won a battle. It had changed the fundamental balance of power in the universe. The device that had saved Earth was now being mass-produced in factories on a dozen worlds. Humanity was sharing the technology with its allies while keeping the control codes for themselves. "Doctor," her assistant asked, "what do we do now? The war is over. We won." Helen looked at the tactical displays showing human fleets patrolling former enemy territory. The galaxy was quiet now. No one was planning invasions or threatening genocide. The lesson had been learned. "Now," she said quietly, "we make sure this never happens again." Captain Ryan Bell stood in his ready room aboard the Resolute, reading reports from the new human territories. The species that had voted for Earth's destruction were gone, their worlds either empty or under human administration. The survivors had been relocated to reservations where they could live peacefully under human supervision. It was not cruel. It was practical. They had proven they could not be trusted with independence. The galaxy had voted to betray Earth. It was the last vote they ever cast because there was no longer a galaxy to vote in. There was only the Human Federation and its protected allies. Democracy had triumphed after all. The humans had simply insisted on being the ones counting the votes. Jake Morrison sat in his new office in the former Senate building, looking out at human ships patrolling the galactic capital. Representatives from the surviving species waited in the outer chamber, hoping for audiences and treaties. They were very polite now. They had learned that humans made excellent friends and terrible enemies. The galaxy had chosen to see which one they preferred. The choice had been permanent.